Welcome to the second Rice Street Holly Boulevard Corridor Study Public Meeting Open House. The purpose of today's meeting is to provide a brief introduction study update and present and gather feedback on preliminary conceptual layouts for potential future modifications to the corridor. This presentation will focus on an overview of the concept development and conceptual layouts, and the available roll plots and display boards will show all the various concepts developed up to this point in the study. This second open house serves as an interim step within the corridor study for you to review and provide feedback on the preliminary conceptual layouts that are based on engineering analysis, design guidelines, and planning efforts completed to date. No recommendations have been developed at this point in the study, and your feedback is integral to the refinement process as part of the study's next steps. At the onset of the study, a study advisory team was organized to provide guidance and reviews at key milestones throughout the study. The study advisory team includes representatives from the City of Brandon, City of Sioux Falls, Minnehaha County, Southeastern Council of Governments, South Dakota Department of Transportation, and Federal Highway Administration. The corridor study area includes the Rice Street Holly Boulevard corridor extending from the I-229 Exit 7 or Rice Street Interchange in Sioux Falls eastward to the South Dakota Highway 11 Split Rock Boulevard intersection in Brandon. Objectives for this corridor study include determining the number of lanes for the corridor, developing alternatives for all arterial intersections, developing a corridor access management plan and corridor land use plan, and ultimately developing a long-range corridor plan with recommendations and planning level timelines that encompass the diverse modes of travel throughout the corridor, including passenger cars, trucks, bicyclists, pedestrians, and rail. We are currently in the third phase of the study, where we are presenting preliminary concepts for your feedback to help the study team further refine and then evaluate these concepts. We anticipate this phase to last into early 2024 before developing preliminary recommendations as part of the fourth phase. At that point, we will host a third public meeting open house to share revised concepts and preliminary recommendations for your review and feedback before we finalize recommendations and draft the final report. The remainder of this presentation focuses on an overview of the preliminary conceptual elements. And with consideration of time, this presentation does not go into significant detail for each of the individual concepts. Therefore, we encourage you to look at the conceptual layouts and roll plots for the full array of concepts developed up to this point in the study. The concept development process incorporated three key phases, with the first being to identify big picture, long-range vision type elements that establish corridor-wide guidance and priorities. The second phase was to identify corridor design elements that provide a framework for the various concepts, such as roadway typical sections and access management guidelines. And the third phase was to develop site-specific modifications that are reflected in the conceptual layouts for the major intersections, railroad crossings, I-229 interchange, the various roadway extension opportunities, and the Holly Boulevard school access modifications. The first big picture type considerations include future growth areas and roadway jurisdiction, as agencies often have different plan priorities and design guidelines. 6 Mile Road is the current growth boundary between the City of Sioux Falls and City of Brandon, with Sioux Falls to the west and Brandon to the east. Current roadway jurisdiction is fairly segmented within the corridor, as shown on this figure, and generally aligns with the current city limits. As Sioux Falls and Brandon continue to grow, we'd expect this jurisdiction to change with that growth. However, until then, we need to consider both the current jurisdiction and future jurisdiction in relation to Sioux Falls and Brandon growth areas when developing concepts and timelines. Previous studies have played a significant role in the concept development process for this corridor study, either in terms of carrying concepts forward from a previous study or using identified guidance and priorities when developing new concepts. This slide includes several of the previous studies that contribute to the conceptual layouts being presented as part of this second public meeting open house. Additional big picture type considerations include future land use and roadway classification. This study's land use planning process started with a meeting with City of Sioux Falls, City of Brandon, and Minnehaha County representatives to review and discuss future land use plans along the corridor and throughout the area. In general, what is currently shown by the City of Sioux Falls and City of Brandon for future land use adjacent to the corridor in their comprehensive plans is still applicable and reflects a very diverse mix of uses throughout the study corridor. Currently, the study team is developing a corridor-specific land use plan map based on these discussions, and that will be presented at the third public meeting open house. In conjunction with future land use planning, roadway classification route prioritization establishes mobility and access priorities for roadways within the transportation network. The City of Sioux Falls, City of Brandon, and South Dakota Department of Transportation have all identified mobility as a higher priority for the Rice Street-Holly Boulevard corridor. The City of Sioux Falls has designated Rice Street as a Type 1 arterial in their major street plan. The City of Brandon has designated Holly Boulevard as a major arterial in their Master Transportation Plan's major street plan. Both designations provide high levels of mobility through route continuity and limited access, and primarily serve commercial and commuter needs. The South Dakota Department of Transportation has also identified the Rice Street-Holly Boulevard corridor as a critical urban freight corridor due to its importance within the statewide freight network. Traffic volumes play a key role in the long-range vision for a corridor and are directly tied to land use and route prioritization. Intersection, turning movement, and roadway segment counts were collected for the study in 2023. Future year traffic volumes were forecasted for the study corridor using the Sioux Falls MPO travel demand model that incorporates future development and roadway improvements identified in the MPO's long-range transportation plan. Since the first open house, the future year volumes were refined based on more detailed information about potential development along the corridor. Updated daily volumes for the study's 2050 planning horizon, which reflects approximately 25 years of traffic growth and development, are shown on the public meeting open house display board. And using the forecasted traffic volumes, the study team estimated approximate timelines and volume thresholds for when improvements may be needed, as well as what intersection configurations and traffic control were needed to accommodate the anticipated traffic growth. It should be noted that all conceptual layouts presented as part of this open house address capacity needs for the 2050 planning horizon traffic volumes. Using the multitude of big picture type considerations from the first phase, the next step was to develop corridor design elements. In general, the future roadway typical sections for Rice Street and Holly Boulevard segments reflect multi-lane urban sections with 2 lanes in each direction and curb and gutter. The Sioux Falls Rice Street typical section shown on this slide incorporate a raised center median and shared use path on the south side. A 4-lane divided option shown at the bottom provides for a shoulder and roadside ditch on the north side of the corridor for segments that are located in the floodplain. The Brandon Holly Boulevard typical sections include many of the same elements to provide consistency and continuity through the corridor, but also incorporate a few differences. In addition to a 4-lane divided urban section, Holly Boulevard typical section options include 3-lane and 5-lane urban sections with a center 2-way left turn lane in lieu of a raised median. For all Holly Boulevard typical sections, a shared use path is included on both sides to enhance bicycle and pedestrian connectivity to development on both sides of the corridor. The second corridor planning element focuses on access management and includes a review of access-related crash history, conflict points, and current City of Sioux Falls and City of Brandon access guidelines for the current roadway classification. Access-related crash history was reviewed for years 2018 through 2022 and primarily centered on angle and rear-end type crashes. Access locations with a higher level of crash frequency include access points near the I-229 Rice Street Interchange and just west of the Split Rock Boulevard intersection. An access conflict analysis was conducted throughout the corridor to review rear-end and angle conflict points within major intersection functional areas, head-on conflict points within 2-way left turn lanes, and right turn overlap conflicts where motorists are required to monitor multiple access points because they are spaced too close together. The goal with this analysis is to simplify the driver's workload and provide for a separated sequential process of perception and reaction, deceleration and lane change, and completing a turn or stopping. There is a display board that identified these locations throughout the corridor, which are primarily located in the built-out areas. Existing and potential future access locations were also reviewed with regard to existing access guidelines. As previously stated, corridor mobility is prioritized over access by both the City of Sioux Falls and City of Brandon. Current guidelines identify signal and other full access intersections be located at quarter-mile increments. Partial access locations may be considered through a traffic study. It should be noted that failure to adhere to these guidelines risks operational and safety impacts to both the corridor and the transportation network as a whole. These designations have been developed through multi-agency regional planning that consider the full hierarchy of the access and mobility relationship and thus is encouraged that the corridor adhere to these guidelines. Access management elements were carried into the concepts in the form of access consolidation, relocation, and closure, and through restricting certain movements with raised medians. Future access locations were also identified based on current City of Sioux Falls and City of Brandon access guidelines. These items are all incorporated into the roll plot and display board concepts. The example shown on this slide is of 3 potential long-range multi-lane Holly Boulevard corridor segments between Sioux Boulevard and Split Rock Boulevard. One objective with these 3 segment concepts was to assess feasibility and whether a multi-lane corridor plus shared use paths would fit within the existing right-of-way, which they generally do. A second objective was to explore various access management configurations for your review and feedback. Conceptual layouts were developed for all arterial intersections as well as other existing planned intersections throughout the study corridor. There were 3 primary intersection types considered with this study. The first is a standard intersection that may be stop controlled and then potentially signalized when warranted by traffic volumes. Standard intersection concepts were developed for intersections throughout the study area. Single-lane and multi-lane roundabout concepts were developed for brand and growth area intersections, and a continuous green T intersection concept was developed for the 6-mile road intersection. There are a series of interim concepts and options intended to provide agencies flexibility to incorporate improvements if needed before expanding the corridor. Single-lane roundabouts on Holly Boulevard are shown on the display boards. Each of the multi-lane standard and continuous green T intersection alternatives are also applicable as short-term options where they could be constructed and open as stop controlled and then signalized when warranted. It should be noted that intersections should not be signalized until warranted by traffic signal warrants in the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices, or MUTCD. National research has shown that crashes tend to increase when traffic signals are installed when not warranted by intersection traffic volumes and other conditions, and thus it should not be assumed that a signal will be installed upon opening of intersections identified at potential future signalized locations. A grade separation warrant analysis was conducted for the 3 Rice Street at-grade railroad crossings between I-229 and Veterans Parkway. This analysis used methodology presented in the Sioux Falls Engineering Design Standards to help determine whether grade separated crossings should be considered based on a variety of engineering and community planning related considerations. The analysis concluded that grade separation would be beneficial at all 3 locations, but also acknowledges challenges due to the skewed crossings, limited right-of-way, cost, and potential diminishing benefits on route reliability if only 1 or 2 crossings are grade separated. A feasibility analysis for constructing Rice Street over the railroad tracks at all 3 existing at-grade crossing locations west of Veterans Parkway is currently underway. Therefore, the preliminary concepts show the existing at-grade crossings at the west and middle crossing locations. The eastern crossing, just west of Veterans Parkway, does show a tunnel or bridge based on available space and advantageous terrain for grade-separated crossing. At the I-229 Exit 7 Rice Street interchange, 2 concepts were carried forward from the I-229 Major Investment Study and updated as part of this corridor study. The concepts include a 6-lane section through the interchange and a rearage connection at Glenwood Circle. The primary difference between the 2 concepts is whether the southbound ramps tie in at their existing location or at the Lowell Avenue intersection. There are several roadway extension concepts that enhance connectivity throughout the area, 2 of which include different Benson Road extension options that span the Big Sioux River and railroad tracks. One concept includes a northern alignment that lines up with the Veterans Parkway intersection and will allow for potentially designating Benson Road as a prioritized east-west route between I-229 and Veterans Parkway instead of Rice Street. The second concept is a southern alignment that tees into Rice Street via an elevated intersection just east of Great Bear's existing access. Other roadway extension concepts include Bonson Avenue and Sycamore Avenue extensions south of Rice Street. The Bonson Avenue extension alignment is already designated and would tie into existing Bonson Avenue roadway segments. The Sycamore Avenue alignment would be new and extend from a new Rice Street intersection around Richard Road to the existing Sycamore Avenue to the south. There is also a concept for a potential Rice Street realignment around the western at-grade rail crossing. The final series of concepts to touch on as part of this presentation include potential modifications to Holly Boulevard at the 6th Avenue and 7th Avenue intersections. Currently, Holly Boulevard can become congested during school drop-off and pickup times, particularly when there are large events at the high school during the afternoons. Traffic stopped in the through lanes, blocking progression through the area is not ideal for a high priority arterial roadway. So part of this corridor study is taking a closer look at this area to develop concepts that enhance mobility and reliability of travel through and across the Holly Boulevard corridor. A series of concepts were developed that close the school parking lot access at 6th Avenue and routes the middle school's parking lot access east to Maple Avenue. This increases internal storage to minimize risk of traffic backing up on the arterial roadway and allows for the Maple Avenue 7th Avenue intersection to be signalized. Signalizing the Maple Avenue 7th Avenue intersection would have benefits beyond just the school peak times, as it would provide a signalized crossing for a connected north-south roadway. The existing 6th Avenue traffic signal would then be removed. Concepts include a variety of alignments and intersection types beyond a standard intersection, including a mini roundabout on Maple Avenue north of Holly Boulevard and roundabouts on Holly Boulevard at the Maple Avenue 7th Avenue intersection and the high school access intersection. Before concluding the presentation, we'd like to circle back to the final objective of this meeting, where we are looking for your input on the preliminary concepts. We encourage you to review the roll plots and display boards and let us know what you like or don't like, what you would like to see modified or considered, as well as anything else we need to address. There are several opportunities to provide comments, including submitting a comment card available at the public meeting open house, reaching out directly to any of the study contacts, or submitting a comment through the study website. And with that, the study team would like to thank you for your interest and participation in the corridor study. We are requesting comments back by Tuesday, December 19th, so we can continue with the concept refinement evaluation before moving into the fourth phase in early 2024. The third open house is planned for early 2024, where we present refined concepts and preliminary recommendations for your feedback. Thank you.